How much does your business turn over?
About 60 million across 150 shops. And then in terms of head office sales, as in like what I own, about 13 million a year.
What does a normal day in your life look like?
Now it's mainly a bit more boring as a CEO, as a business owner.
You're doing something in India as well, like
Yeah.
in terms of your franchise.
Yeah. Deliveries to the stores. We've got a lot of stock. We've got a lot of warehouse, a lot of equipment, everything from the pricing. There's not going to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's slice through the cheesy details and meet Mario Allepo, the dough-spinning genius behind Fireaway Pizza. Mario started Fireaway from scratch. No shortcuts. Masterpiece of marinara and entrepreneurship.
Something happened in the market. I mean, it happens all the time. Like pizza, they're going down.
In the UK, it's not doing great. I think if I had to choose someone quickly, maybe like the founder of Domino's, that could be interesting.
One word that describes your leadership style.
Erratic.
What do you mean by that? What are you looking in my background?
It's difficult to put your trust in someone else, especially when you're used to doing a lot of things yourself. Probably got about £500,000. They said Elon Musk is become a trillionaire in the next 3 years. And there's people that don't have food to eat.
How do you deal with people around you who just can't handle your success?
Just don't be around them. Not much more that you can do without, wasting too much time and energy. Look my friends in the eyes. I was purposely setting out to use other people to fund my life. Sometimes it's not all about the money. It's about also important not to give away too much too quickly.
What sparked this entrepreneurial side out of you? Welcome back to Take a Seat, the #1 growing podcast for mindset and motivation. We bring on high-profile celebrities, music artists, and even entrepreneurs to see how they became successful. So before we get into this one, make sure you smash the subscribe button. Today's no different. We've got someone on who's created a whole franchise. He's turning over more than 60 million, and now he's getting involved in all of the distribution processes too. He can even help you to get a franchise. So please welcome Mario Allepo.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you, bro?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all good, man. Looking cool.
Thank you.
What goes into your outfit?
I had another meeting, so very rarely I'm in a suit, but I thought I'd keep it on and make a change.
Yeah. I mean, you're from Southeast London.
South London.
South London. How important is the image, like, especially now you're going into bigger meetings? Does it matter to wear a suit and tie, or can you rock in with a hoodie?
No, for me personally, I don't really, as long as I look clean, I don't really pay too much attention to what I wear. Whereas back in the day, I did, and I kind of feel like it was a bit of a waste of time. I mean, if you're into clothing and designer clothes and that's your business or that's your passion, then fair enough. But in terms of doing it just to impress people and that, for me, it's not really what I do. Although people do treat you differently depending on what you're wearing, unfortunately. But for me personally, I don't pay too much attention to it. I think if you keep it simple, you save unnecessary wastage of time in the morning deciding what to wear.
Your time is probably pretty precious to you. You're doing a lot of things. You've got your fingers in a lot of pies. You might have someone really, really well dressed trying to pitch to you, or you might have somebody trying to pitch to you who just looks pretty normal. How do you sieve out very quickly whether somebody's worth your time? Like in the next 5-10 minutes, you're talking to somebody. Is there a thought process you go through?
Not really what they're wearing. It's more to do. I mean, I've met multi-millionaires that are dressed as if they don't have £100 in the bank. So it's not really what they wear. For me, it's the questions that they ask, and the vibe they give off within 5-10 minutes. You can normally tell if it's going to be a waste of time or not.
Maria, how old are you?
34.
34 now. And what does a normal day, week in your life look like?
Every day is pretty much different, which is good. But a lot of meetings. I wake up about 8 o'clock, and then get picked up about 8:30. Either go to the office or visit some shops or go to some meetings. And now it's a bit more boring than what it used to be, where it's more physical. Now it's more office based and meetings, so it's not as eventful as it was, back in the day. But yeah, every day is different to an extent, so that's it's still good.
To get into this position, you probably had to leverage other people to do some of the
Mm,
tasks that you used to do.
yeah.
And obviously your values grown where you're seeing the bigger picture to grow a business. How do you trust people around you, or allow like management there, or somebody doing your distributing, for example, where you just
Mm-mm-mm.
go, what are the figures today, how do we increase that, like how do you like
It's
get
difficult.
in touch?
It's difficult to put your trust in someone else, especially when you're used to doing a lot of things yourself. So I think you have to take that leap of faith, and you're never going to know for sure if someone is going to do a good job until you let them do it. There is an element of risk involved, but I think if they are, it's good to, if where possible, promote people and use people and delegate to people that are already in your kind of circle or team, opposed to bringing in new people. Because in interviews, everybody says really what you want what you want to hear, but until they actually start the job, it's very difficult. So if you can, for example, we've got a guy that started off as a franchisee, then he worked in the head office as like an admin, then he went to run the distribution, and now I've just made him managing director. So he's gone from basically from the bottom all the way to the top, in the space of 4 or 5 years. But he's a very, very reliable, hardworking person, and I could see that from from near the beginning. So if you can choose people, within your team, opposed to bringing on new people, then that's great. And if you have to bring in new people, you have to make um, a calculated risk, and hopefully it pays off. Or if it doesn't, you have to remove them pretty quickly.
How do you make sure you don't clash with people in terms of somebody who's coming from the bottom all the way to MD? They've obviously got a certain drive to them in their life, and they're
Mm.
trying to progress in their life, and they're going, I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn. How do they stay coachable, like in terms of you're giving them direction, but how do you find that balance where you don't clash? Because that person might want to also become an entrepreneur, but right now he's an employee. How do you
Mm.
manage that?
That's a good question. With difficulty is a simple answer. I think everybody's got their own kind of way to be, and their own experiences and their own kind of vibe. And I think as as a CEO, as a business owner, you kind of, no one's going to be perfect, but you have to kind of, um, what's the word? You have to kind of allocate and create a team of people where there's as minimal clashes as possible. And if one role or job position involves a lot of kind of on their own work, opposed to a lot of teamwork, then you have to kind of allocate roles and responsibilities to people where there'll be as minimal clashes as possible. Um, but again, you're not really going to know until it's kind of too late. So I think there's an element of risk involved, but that in itself is a skill of being like a business owner, of an entrepreneur, by being able to choose and delegate jobs, where in the beginning I didn't really clock that. But as you grow as a business and you realize that you can't do everything on your own, then you kind of realize that that's a skill in itself, by choosing the right people.
How often are you having team meetings with all your people to make
Mm.
sure that that alignment is coming? Like,
Once a week, every Monday. Yeah.
and that's important.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, a lot of people want to work from home, and I think we live in an age where times have changed, and it's good to give people free time and time to work at home where if they're comfortable. But I think you also need to be in the office, or in the workplace, like a certain amount of the week as well.
How much does AI come into this? How often do you have like a Zoom call or like a Teams meeting?
Um, I mean, some people who are on in the office, they join by Zoom. So again, every week. But I mean, we have meetings with suppliers and franchisees in different countries. So yeah, a lot.
Do you think that makes any difference in person or online?
Mm, a small amount, not a massive amount, no, in my opinion.
So I want to hear all the accolades. How much does your business turn over?
So in terms of like sales, pizza sales, in terms of how much food and how much pizza we sell, about 60 million across 150 shops. And then in terms of head office sales, as in like what I own, about 13 million a year. Um, yeah, that's it.
Does it make sense to give a portion of what you have away, like for other people to run?
Um, I think you have to balance it up, isn't it? I mean, for example, we don't do our social media anymore in house. We've allocated that to an agency because it just makes sense. Um, we pay them a lot, but it's still less than if we were to do it ourselves. And they've got experience, they know what they're doing. They're doing a good job. So certain things that don't make sense, but other things like the distribution, which I was debating to give away to a third party, to sell it to a third party a couple of years ago. Luckily, I decided not to because there's certain things that you need to keep in house.
Have you sold some of the shares in your
Yeah,
company?
we sold 6% to individual investors. So there were six guys. They took a percent each. They were all kind of involved in the business in some way or another. They were either franchisees, master franchisees, suppliers. So we sold 6% to six of them, and then we sold 2% last year to Crowdcube, which is like a crowdfunding website where normal people can invest anything between £50 or £20,000. Um, so that's it, about 8%, and then a couple of percent to, as in bonuses to staff at the head office. So in total, we've given away about 10%.
And do you feel that you've been rewarded for that?
Yeah, I think it kept the investors motivated because they were already kind of in business with us in one way or another. And then the Crowdcube, I think there was about 800 investors that invested between £50 and £20,000. So again, hopefully they're loyal customers as well, or they've told their friends and family that they've invested. So yeah, it's sometimes not all about the money; it's about what else can be brought to the table. So I think we made the right decision, but I think it's also important not to give away too much too quickly.
And you've also expanded internationally.
Mm, yeah.
And how did that come about? When did the first time that you thought about we can do this abroad now as well, and or looking at the legalities of
Mm-mm-mm.
how do you get an outlet, how do people how does it all work in terms of distribution with ingredients and
Yeah. So I mean, it's always crossed my mind, but similar to how the whole franchise started in the beginning. Anyway, it was someone that came to us. We didn't actively go out there and look for someone. So one of the brothers of one of the franchisees in England, he contacted me and said he's moved to Amsterdam and he wants to open a store. So he opened a store out there. And once that one started, then we kind of worked out the basics of what is needed to open internationally in terms of logistics and legalities and everything else. Then we started to market it in other countries. We done a franchise show in Portugal. We opened a store there. And then a guy who was interested in opening in Essex, he said he's moving to Turkey. That's where he's from, and would we be interested in doing it there? So he opened a store there. Um, so we haven't really actively looked for people. They've kind of just come to us in a way.
do you notice a difference internationally? So from going from UK and
Mm.
now you're going to different countries, is it more red tape? Is it easier abroad? Is there some countries that are easier to work with that you feel we could smash it in this one?
I think the UK would always be easier because that's where we're based, that's where we're from, and that's what we know. So definitely, it's not as easy as the UK. But I mean, anything I think is possible if um if you work on it. And there's always going to be obstacles. Some countries more than others, especially with like the technology side and the till system and the app and the ordering and the logistics by sending in flour and tomato and everything else from Italy. So I think that you're always going to face issues, But I think it's worth it. I mean, everyone wants to grow, or most people want to grow, see their brand grow, across the world. So I think it's definitely been worth it, but it hasn't been easy.
Mm. Pizza's from Italy, right?
Yeah.
What do Italians think of your pizza?
I mean, the feedback that I've heard from my family or just Italian customers in general is good. I mean, you won't find things like um, pineapple on pizza in Italy. You won't find barbecue sauce bases. You won't even find like dips, garlic and herb dips. It's very simple, very traditional. You won't find halal pizza, to be honest, because the Muslim population is not a lot in Italy. So that's one thing that a lot of people bring up, but we're not in Italy. So so I think in general it's good. I mean, a lot better than what you would see the comparison between the main pizza brands in the UK and Italy. Um, yeah, a lot better. Our flour comes from Italy. The tomato comes from Italy. The olive oil, the desserts, the cannolis.
While
Uh,
we're on that topic,
mm.
how much does all of these pesticides and everything come into it? Like, do they use different growing ingredients abroad? Is it any different to the UK?
I think Italy in general. I mean, the food is seems to be a lot more fresh. The air, the soil, from what I've seen compared to the UK, the weather is a lot better. So I can only assume that the food is of slightly better quality, and the price is it reflects that as well. The price, it would be a lot cheaper if we if we ordered like local flour, local tomato sauce instead of getting it in from Italy. But I think we want to keep at least a certain level of authenticity. So hence why we've continued to source it from there.
Got a very serious, important question here.
Yeah.
Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
I think pizza's the kind of thing that you can put anything on it, and it. So I think depending on your taste, I think it can work. But like I said, in Italy, it's a definite no.
Well, it's amazing to hear about all of these accolades, how you've been able to grow internationally, all these branches. But a lot of people say that's too far away from me. I can never get up to that end. So let's just rein it back to your very, very first store.
Mm.
How did that deal come about? What was your thought process at that point? And how was you able to make that one successful?
So I saved up a bit of money. Um, I was looking at doing a Subway franchise. Um,
How much was that?
at the time, it wasn't as much as it is now. I think it was about 70, 80,000. Um, so I was looking at doing that, and at the last minute, I thought it's not the right decision because it felt kind of like a job, opposed to having my own business. There was a lot of like rules, regulations, a lot of costs involved, a lot of ongoing costs. With Subway, there was a lot of stores being opened. I felt like it was getting a bit saturated. So at the last minute, I decided to pull out, and at that point, I already found a shop, already signed the lease, already paid a deposit on the property.
How
So
do you do that? How did you know how to get a lease and
I
get a shop that's
just went
not
on
yours?
Google and put shops to let, shops to rent. But funny enough, the one that we actually went with, I happened to just be driving past. It was near my house in Mitcham, and I happened to be driving past, and I saw an empty shop. It was a Chinese takeaway. There was an old Chinese lady inside walking around. So I went in and started speaking to her and found out that it was her shop and she wanted to rent it, and we took it off her for, at that time it was about £1,000 a month. It was right next to KFC. It weren't on a high street. It was like a small parade of shops.
Did you have to pay a premium?
No, because it was in a bad, like it was really dirty. It was like proper dirty. So it took a lot of cleaning up, a lot of repairing. So we didn't have to pay a premium.
Did you renovate this shop?
Yeah, we renovated it. Yeah.
How much was the refurb?
Um, for the builder's cost, it come to around. This is like 6, 7 years ago now. It's about 25 grand. Luckily, there were some friends of mine, so they didn't charge me up front, and I paid them back like monthly, which was a big help. And then the equipment was about the same, 25, 30 grand. So in total, the total investment was probably about 55 grand. We managed to get 6 months rent free because the shop was such in a bad state. But we
Brilliant.
got it up and running in about 2 months. So we had about 4 months left.
Wow. Was it the right decision to pay for 25% of, plant and machinery, or could there have been a different way you could have done it by renting it or leasing it, any of that equipment?
I think certain equipment like refrigeration and freezers and all of that, I think it's best to buy it new because if there's problems, it can mess up everything. And the oven, we found one on eBay, like a second-hand one, so that saved us a big cost. That was about it. It was just basically ovens, some fridges, and some freezers.
Okay. And how much is that oven that you put your pizza into?
Um, about 15, including delivery and setup, near enough £20,000.
It's a quite a big bit of
Yeah, but
machinery, isn't it?
yeah, that is the main piece of the business of the shop.
How did you base this pizza business? What did you base it on? Where did the idea come from? How did you know how it was going to flow?
Subway. So I like the idea that Subway, people could see everything. It was fresh. So I basically just kept it like that, but changed the product to pizza. Because I think pizza's more of a kind of a universal popular product, especially in the evening. Sandwiches, not really like an evening late night thing.
And how did you know what toppings you were going to use and how you were going to be different to Go or Papa John's or Domino's? What made you different?
I think the fact that it was Italian, the products came from like a proper Italian supplier. It was authentic. We had a proper oven. Customers could see the food being cooked in front of them. They could see the pizzas being stretched. It wasn't like frozen dough. Everything was fresh, and the branding, the color scheme was good. It stood out from the competition, and it was different, and it worked.
How much different is Fireaway Pizza today from that first one from 6 years ago?
For the first 3 months, it wasn't halal, um, but apart from that, everything else is pretty much the same.
People try to overcomplicate things sometimes.
Mm.
Is that saying true that,
Yeah, I think so. I think sometimes it's more headache than it's worth. I think if you keep it simple, um, but add a twist to it and push it and work hard at it, I don't think there's any reason why it won't succeed.
And so with this concept, how did you sort of start growing this one branch? When did you know you had something? I mean, were people coming in and just queuing up straight away?
Mm, Pretty much. I mean, it was successful. It wasn't like overly successful, but it was successful. We were making money, and the fact that most businesses don't make money in the first year, and we were making money within the first like 3 or 4 months, that was a good sign. But in terms of replicating it and growing it and franchising it, it never really crossed my mind. Probably because we were just too busy, and I was trying to do everything myself. So the only reason why it kind of happened at that time is one of the regular customers came in, and he said he was looking at doing another pizza franchise with his son, at Papa John's, and would we be interested in letting him do a franchise? So I said, yeah, go for it. And he done it. He opened about 25 minutes down the road, and his shop was busier than mine. So it kind of just grew from there. Then we opened another one. Then someone else came and asked, and it just kind of grew. Probably for the first 2 years, it was all organic, and we opened maybe 6 or 7 shops. And then after that, we started doing franchise shows, started, actively searching and advertising for people.
How did you start getting into that sort of scaling sort of mindset? How did you know that I've got this baby right here, now I want another couple of more
Mm-mm.
babies scattered around, and yeah, you've got this formula. And before even that, how did you source the products from Italy and knowing how to get things imported and how to
No,
get around that?
at that point, no, we bought it from like an Italian supplier in London, so we
Okay.
didn't have to worry about any of that. We just made an order, and it got delivered. It was a bit more expensive,
How much more?
about 20% 20% more.
Okay.
But at the time, it was all right.
And you also spotted an opportunity there with that 20% of them ingredients that you thought if you could grow this brand.
Once you get to a certain level, yeah. I mean, I think there's no point worrying about distribution or anything like that until you have at least, well, we didn't do it until we had about 25, 30 shops. And then it kind of made sense to do the whole distribution and wholesaling thing. But in the beginning, we just ordered from another supplier, and just really after the first guy came and said, "Can I do a franchise?" and he was busier than me, that's probably when it kind of clicked in my head that, yeah, I think that would be the route to go down.
Did you kick yourself at all?
In terms of,
I've just given him. I said, "Yeah, you can go and do it down the
no,
road," and now
I
he's
think
busier than me.
so other people, said put that idea forward, but no, I don't think so. I think if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't have started looking to franchise it as quickly as we did. So I think, I think everything happens for a reason, and I think, yeah, I think you can only be grateful.
And how did you know how to start brokering these commercial deals as well? How did you know,
Mm,
like,
just
if you want it for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, if they wanted deposits, how did you broker these
you
deals?
just learn as you go along. You just you gain knowledge by listening to people and meeting new people, and just asking questions, and that was it.
And when was that moment when you opened a couple of franchises that you just all of a sudden had to stop and go, whoa, I've just created all of that?
Very rarely was there a chance to stop and look back, because it all happened really kind of quickly. It wasn't overnight, but it wasn't, generational where it's like 20, 30 years. It happened within, well, 1 year we opened 48 shops, so that was like nearly one a week. So there's not really that much time, because you're always working on something or trying to fix a problem or overcome an obstacle. So sometimes it's better like that, when you really don't have time to stop and look back at what you've been doing.
And how did you know how to work with other people and give some of this away in terms of a franchise? Like, how did you know how much you wanted from the deal by giving your brand name away?
I think after opening a second shop myself and running two shops, I realized that for me that was very difficult. And I think people have different skills. So some people are good at, running a business, and some people are good at growing a business, and some people are good at different parts of business. So I think I realized after the second shop that I would prefer to work on scaling and growing the brand, opposed to opening loads of shops. And I think franchising is the way to do that.
Let's go back even more to being 10-year-old Mario. What was you doing, bro?
At 10 years old, struggling to remember. To be honest, I had like a normal kind of childhood, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, we didn't have any money. Used to get stuff from like the car boot sale, clothes and that. But at the time, it seemed normal, because where I was living, no one around me had any money either. So it wasn't like it was out of the ordinary. It was just normal.
What was
And
your parents doing?
so my mum was basically looking after us, because I've got four brothers and sisters. So there was five of us, and two dogs. So she was basically full time looking after us. My dad was a gas engineer, but my mum and dad split up when I was quite young. And that's it. I sold sweets in school, like most people do, from what I've heard. And
Did that affect you at all? Your mom and dad splitting up?
it's, I ain't got the best memory, to be honest, but I mean, it must have. I'm guessing it must have, to an extent, yeah.
Did it make you want to be like, look after your mum more when your dad's not there as
Mm,
much? Or
maybe, but I think fast forwarding a bit, I think me personally, I've used having a business, or just business in general, as a sort of distraction. Whenever times are tough or things happen, um, that was a bit too early on when my mum and dad split up. But in terms of more recent, when people have died, one of my good friends killed himself. Another one of my friends died when he was on holiday in Ibiza. Um, Family members dying. I think relationship breakdowns. I think everything I've kind of had business as you could say a focus or a distraction, but either way, it helped. And it's not always good to distract yourself from things. Sometimes you have to face them, but at the same time, I think we all need like distractions and things to focus on. I think everyone should have a focus. If you don't focus on things, that's when your mind kind of runs away with you. And I think yeah, at least in my opinion, it's helped me a lot having a business.
Do you find that's, that's who Mario is when you're in your zen of in your business and creating what you're creating and,
Yeah,
growing?
I think for me personally, I would say yeah, it's kind of that's what I enjoy from early on, from selling sweets in school to opening a coffee shop that failed to starting a franchise to just it's more than just like financially. Obviously, it's been good for me financially, but it's been good for me mentally, I think, which is more important. And it meeting new people, traveling to new places. I think there's a lot more important things than just making money. And I think what people told me when I was younger, which I didn't really believe or listen to, successful people, which I now fully believe and tell other people is don't focus on the money. If you're going to do something just for money, I don't think the chance of it working are as good as if you're doing something because you enjoy it. And once you're doing it, you then find a revenue stream to bring in money. I don't think you should do it solely for money. I think you should do it because you enjoy it and you're passionate about it and you're interested in it. And then once you're doing it, you can then find a way to make money through that.
So make money through your passion.
Yeah.
Love that. So your first side hustle, what was that?
Selling sweets in school. And then secondly, in summer holidays, taking my brothers and sisters to wash cars. Although the areas near me where we were knocking on doors, they didn't have cars, but they'd give us like a few quid anyway. You'd probably make more money from that than actually washing cars. But that was it. I never really like enjoyed school. I left school at 16 and done a few college courses to keep my mum happy. I didn't finish any of them. And
What
then
courses?
one was public services, which was just like pretty general. Everybody was doing it. And the other one was sports science. But again, didn't finish that and got a job in charity fundraising on the street. Done it for a bit, but found it a bit. It was good, but it wasn't like a long term thing. And then got a job in Nando's. Done that for a bit, and then
Where did you work in Nando's? Front or kitchen?
in the kitchen, yeah, in Tooting,
Okay.
yeah,
How long did you keep that job for?
about 6 months.
Okay.
And then,
What did you learn there?
what did I learn there? Not a lot. Not much because obviously I was in the back in the kitchen, so not a lot. Working as part of a team, maybe. Yeah, working as part of a team, interacting with customers. Yeah, that was about it. And then opened like a little coffee shop, also in Tooting.
How'd you go from Nando's to opening a coffee shop?
Just because I used to always walk on the way back from work, always used to walk past the high street, and I see one day there was a sign in the window that said to let. It was an estate agent, and he'd cut like a little section of the shop and was renting it. I think it came to wasn't a lot, like £100 a week at the time. So it was very smaller. Rented that, and it didn't go to plan.
Why is that?
Maybe I wasn't really passionate about it, and I wasn't an early morning person. And coffee being an early morning person, like an early morning business, I had to wake up early, and after a while, kind of just weren't interested anymore.
What sparked this entrepreneurial side out of you?
Probably the fact that I didn't really want to conform to rules or wake up at certain times and be at places in certain times. Kind of just a freedom, I suppose, and not wanting to take orders from someone.
I mean, you said you weren't that good in school, so, maybe not as good as on numbers and stuff, but then all of a sudden the shop's in front of you. You need to sign a lease agreement or pay some sort of rent. And it's like holding a baby. Like, no, you can't get away from it. The bills are always going to be coming. Rent rates are going to be coming.
I think I always knew how to like buy and sell, and I enjoyed that. But I think me personally, I used to give up at things. I didn't see it as giving up. I saw it more as moving on to something else, something better. So I'd have all these ideas, start them, and then jump to something else. But then the shop was the first kind of thing that there was an actual lease agreement and there was no running away. You can't just, it's not like a website or where you can just turn it off or switch it off. This was, this was like a contract. You was conscripted into it. And then I realized there's no walking away. You have to make it work. So if it wasn't for that, then maybe I would have given up at that as well.
How do you stop yourself from beating yourself up and just looking back going, if only that shop worked, I would have made it, and then just like not, instead of looking ahead like you actually did? How do you stop beating yourself and go, oof, dust off, let's move?
I think I've always been kind of a positive person, no matter what the situation is. I've kind of always looked um, for a positive, and I think that's quite important. Um, I think sometimes you do have to beat yourself up a bit and realize where you went wrong and how to fix it. Otherwise, you never learn from your mistakes.
What did you learn from that coffee shop?
Um, just the fact, well, I learned the basics of business, like having a business account, customer um, service, ordering like suppliers and distribution and those kind of basic things. But what did I learn from the mistakes of it is probably choosing the right location, choosing something that you're passionate about, and being realistic with what you can do and what you can't do.
So why pizza?
Being Italian, I mean, it's a popular product, and also, as I said before, it's a very popular and universal product. Everyone's got to eat, so yeah, it worked.
And in your head, how did you think, I'm going to take on the other pizza shops? Why is somebody going to walk into your one rather than just down the road to another pizza shop?
I didn't really, in the beginning, didn't really focus on that, to be honest. I just kind of focused on what I was doing and thinking how to make that work the best that it could, opposed to thinking how I'm going to, you know, take customers from the competition. But now, more recently, when things get a bit more on a bigger scale and more complicated, and you're looking at customer demographics and marketing, especially with what other brands are doing, yeah, you got to take notice of what the competition are doing 100%.
And how did you make that product that product? Like, obviously, you've got dough, you've got ingredients there, but like to make it what it is, did you have anyone else like input in? Did you have to have taster sessions with family? Did mum
Yeah.
come over and go, no, you do it like this, or anything of that nature?
No, we kind of just went along with it and then one of the original chefs, um, we worked with him to make the right recipe, and it kind of just went from there. Obviously, we tweaked it along the way. I think the product's important, but you don't have to overcomplicate it. As I said, as long as it's a good product, it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It can be simple. As long as it's a good product and you provide it to people with a good service and you have good branding, then there's no reason why it can't work.
And how do you maintain that consistency?
Again, with difficulty, you need to always be looking for customer feedback. You need to have mystery shoppers. You need to have regular meetings with the team. You need to regular meetings with your suppliers. You have to be on it all the time, looking at like the trends. You have to just be on it.
I want to talk a little bit about your branding and
Mm.
a little bit about your branding colors.
Mm-hmm.
So, if we look at, for example, we looked at Pizza Hut, they've got red, black, and white.
Mm.
So, when I look at that, red is about energy, excitement, passion. When we look at black, we look at sophisticated, power, authority.
Mm.
And then we look at white, is like cleanliness, that sort of type of vibe. When we look at Domino's, we look red, blue, and white. And so their difference is the blue creates that sort of trust, reliability, and professionalism.
Yeah.
From what I can sort of see, you've gone also with three colors, which is red, white, and yellow.
Orange.
Okay, orange. I mean, orange. Tell me the thought process behind that.
I mean, for me, it was just two colors. It was black and orange. I think they contrast each other well, and orange is a bright color, and it was either going to be black and green or black and orange. And I think, yeah, keep it simple. You don't need too many colors.
Any thought process behind it?
Not really, no.
Just to make it pop?
Just that it stands out. That was it.
And behind your brand also, I see that you you get that younger generation behind it. Like I've seen you guys come out in tanks
Mm,
and get influencers on board, and that's a little bit different compared to the others. Really, like the others, I see more commercials or something of that sort of nature. But what's inspired, like getting a tank, going into central London, walking into another pizza store and delivering that? Like,
mm.
is that a publicity stunt? Is that to create attention? Is
I
what was
think
that about?
I think it's just a bit of everything. I think you have to be creative and you have to come with something different if you want to stand out from the competition. I think you have to come with something different, and I think I like to be creative in general. So marketing a business is an opportunity to be creative, and I think there is a line that you shouldn't really look to cross, but at the same time you should go as close as possible to the line. And I think the campaigns or the stunts or whatever you want to call them, what we've done has done exactly that. And it's about creating noise, it's about creating brand awareness. That's something that people remember.
How much did that tank cost you?
Not a lot. I think it was about 5 or 6 thousand pound for the day with the drivers.
Okay. And what was your actual thought process when you did that? Did you know it was going to blow up as big as it did?
No, I just thought it would be different. I think if you just look at what's different and what's creative and what's funny or what's outlandish a bit, then if it goes viral, if it becomes like overly successful. But I think you just got to aim to make it successful, and then if it anything more than that is like a bonus.
Mario, you're from South London, yeah? And you've grown up from humble beginnings yourself.
Mm.
How do you deal with people around you who just can't handle your success?
Just don't be around them. There's not much more that you can do without wasting too much time and energy on other people. I think you just have to focus on yourself, and if you can aim to be just a good person and help people as much as possible, um, that's about it. I don't think there's any point worrying or um, overthinking how you can please everybody or why certain people don't like you. I think that's their problem. I think you just have to focus on yourself and what you're doing.
And how do you get around when people go, obviously they've seen you progress, they still like act like they're your friend, and then all of a sudden that conversation or phone call comes up and go, yo, bro, can you just lend me some money, please, bro? I just
Mm.
need a little bit of money, like I'll give it back to you and stuff like that. Have you, one, been burned, or two, have you had to say no and then it's affected your relationship after?
I think the best thing to do is say no to everyone. I think because if you start picking and choosing, and everyone's got problems. Everyone's got different problems, whether it's financial or any other kind of problem. So I think money is a good tool to bring out people's true colors. Um, and I think it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, we're only humans, so obviously want to help people, but I think it's people can't always pay you back because things are out of their control as well. So then that's when it will cause issues. Everyone's gonna promise to pay you back when they're asking for the money, but the moment it comes to paying you back, and for whatever reason, even if it's out of their control, that's when problems start. And I think that's why they say, um, money causes a lot of problems, and I think it's true. So I think if you can just say no to everyone and just explain, look, I just don't lend money to people. I think that's the best thing you can do. I know people that constantly borrow money from everyone and just don't pay them back, and that's how they go on in life. I'm not going to mention any names, but I know people, they'll purposely go places with people and forget to bring their wallet so that they can borrow it. I mean, that's how for me, that's I wouldn't be able to do that, and wouldn't be able to look my friends in the eyes if I was purposely setting out to use other people to fund my life or lifestyle. So, but there are people like that, and I think it's difficult to spot who's who. So I think the best thing is just don't lend money to anybody.
Mhm. If you go out with some of your friends from school, college, from your childhood, and you're going to a restaurant and stuff, do you feel obliged to pay?
No, I think it's the same with partners. I think if you're going to invite someone somewhere, then then you should, if they're unable, obviously, to pay for it themselves. Then I think if you invited them, you should pay for them. If someone invites you somewhere and expects you to pay, then that's a bit of a warning sign. But people have asked me before, and if you want to take someone to a nice restaurant, but they're not on the same financial capability as you, then what does that mean? That you don't invite people with less money to nice restaurants? You can only invite people with money? I think that's a bit shallow. So I think, yeah, I mean, I like to eat in nice places, and if I invite someone to come with me, then obviously I'm going to cover the cost. I don't think you should only choose who to go places with based on their financial capability. But yeah, I think everyone's different, so people might have a different view on that. I mean, one friend of mine, he went on that first date show. He got into a massive argument with the girl for offering to pay for her, um, and she wasn't having any of it, and it turned into an argument. So I think everyone's got different views. I think you should respect everyone's views, but I don't think you should treat people differently based on how much money they've got.
How do you stay humble? Like you're doing millions of pounds, these big numbers. How do you still stay so grounded?
Mm, I think it's just the people that you associate with as well. And I grew up not having money and being around people that don't have a massive amount of money, and they're still my friends. So I think it's when you start changing circles based on, again, your finances, that's when I think you start to change who you are. So I think if you just remember where you came from, um, then it should not be too difficult to kind of keep in that same mentality.
Some people let money get to them though. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. There are
Mm,
probably people around you who you know that you're doing a lot big numbers and you'll just play it cool and they will act like they're the biggest person in the room
mm,
because they've got a big watch on or a better suit on or they think they've done one big deal like the first
mm.
million. Like how do you deal with people like that?
I think I think it's just important to remember that, regardless of what they think, people aren't going to remember you for what car you drove or what watch you wear or how big your house is. People are going to remember you, uh, I guess, and the people that I remember on who they helped, what they did, what they created, and yeah, what they how if they were a good person or not, not based on how much money they had in the bank. At the end of the day, you can't take it with you. The government will take most of it one way or the other. So um, yeah, I think those material things, they're all man-made at the end of the day. Money itself is man-made. So I think there's more valuable qualities to have and to remember people by, opposed to how much they spent on their watch or their car or their house.
Do you think certain people control the world?
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I was very, I don't know if you say conspiracy theorist, but I always used to show all my friends like videos on YouTube. And I think now the I think if you believe that no one controls the world and that the government and everyone else, they're all out to help you and look after you, I think that's the biggest conspiracy theorist that you could the biggest conspiracy theory you can have. I think i think at the same time, people have to control the world, because if it was left down to everyone just do what they want, and I think that could also be a bad thing. So I think it's the lesser of two evils, isn't it? But yeah, unfortunately, they say power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, and I think that's true.
Do you think being an entrepreneur and having a little bit more control makes a difference?
Yeah, but I think it's also important to remember that not one person cannot make that much of a difference. I think it is about community, it is about teamwork, it is about, groups, and that's why it's the people that work together that seem to make, um, like you said, control the world or to make big changes. It's not one person. It's when people from different sectors or different, areas, different, what's the word? People from different sectors that come together that can create control and can create differences. Not one person doing everything themselves. And the same in business. I think it's important to realize you need to work together to make things work. It's not a one person army. It's not a one man army, and you can only do so much. And if you try and do everything yourself, you'll burn out. So it is about working together and working with people with different skill sets and different specialities as you.
Mhm. So imagine I want to open a franchise now.
Yeah.
I'm from Essex. I've seen a nice location around Hornchurch, around this little bit. I know nice affluent clients around here. I want to open one of these shops up. And I've seen a shop and I've spoke to somebody and they've said, yeah, we can sort you out, Sean, £1,200 a month. Shit, how do I get Fireaway in here? What's my thought process? What do I do next?
So once you've found a good location, and if we agree that it's a good location, and once we have a meeting and check the background and check your experience and check that you're willing to, do what you say you are going to do, then you pay us some money and we get the shop ready.
What does that mean? Like, what goes into checking the area, first of all?
You check the demographic. You check that it's not too close to another store that we've already got. You check that their residential population is enough, and you check that the store size is appropriate. It's got all the utilities that you need. You can cook in it because certain buildings you can't cook in. But there's probably like 5 different factors involved in choosing the right location. And then it comes on to obviously choosing the right person to run it, which is easier said than done because everybody says, as I said, what you want them to hear until it comes to actually putting in the work.
What are you looking in my background?
Probably 3 things. Probably financial stability. Unfortunately, you need money to run a business and to operate a business. Um, and then experience. Not everyone has experience, but it does help. And I think you need some sort of experience. And then, willingness to actually. I mean, what's your plan? Are you going to be around for like a year or two, or are you going on holiday every month? Have you got other responsibilities that are going to take up your time? So yeah, there's probably about 3 things, but you're never going to know until the person's actually in there. But you can take a calculated risk.
What does a typical franchise, what does it typically turn over like a year and how much profit?
I mean, we've got shops that are turning over £25,000 a week, and we've got shops that are turning over £5,000 a week. But I think the average should be about £12,000 a week.
Okay, and what does that mean in sort of like money in my pocket, like profit?
I mean, with most franchises or most food businesses, you should be looking to walk away with at least like between 20 and 22%
Okay.
profit.
And so what has been your biggest obstacle as you're scaling? Because you've like grown nearly every single year. I think one of the years you said you didn't get any more.
I think the main thing is people, like skilled. When you need skilled employees, then obviously that creates difficulties. But yeah, people is if I had to choose one thing, people is the biggest problem.
Now, Fireaway is your brand and it's a cash flowing sort of system. It creates a lot of cash from you.
Mm-mm.
So if you take a step back, you're creating all this cash. What are you now invested in to sort of lock that into sort of assets?
I mean, we've probably got about £500,000 worth of vehicles to obviously do deliveries to the stores. We've got a lot of stock. We've got a lot of warehouse, a lot of equipment. For us, that's unless we start looking to actually purchase the actual buildings of the shops, then for us, that's basically it. Vehicles and storage warehouses.
How do you diversify out of your pizza shops as well? Now that you've got all this money coming in,
Mm.
you can make some chess moves. How do you know what other asset classes out there that if tomorrow, God forbid, something
Mm.
happened in the market,
Yeah.
um, some sort of anomaly, what would you be sort of left with, if that makes sense? Like, I mean, it happens all the time. Like Pizza Hut, they're going down, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, Papa John's, I think, are pretty much, on their last legs. Pizza Hut, at least in the UK, is not doing great. I think the real competition, the real competitors are Domino's, and hats off to them. Credit where it's due. Their service is 10 out of 10. Um, I think our product is a lot better, but their service, I think, is 10 out of 10. In terms of how do you diversify, I mean, like just that, innit? I mean, buying warehouses, buying the actual buildings, the property side of things. We're looking at virtual brands to put inside these shops as well, like a different cuisine, a simple but different cuisine potentially. Um, Adding new things to the menu, equipment, so that you can supply other companies as well. Um, so yeah.
How are you innovative in your existing products of your pizza? Do you do anything different and quirky? Like, I think I've seen Domino's create some sort of Subway sort of style
Yeah,
with
yeah,
cheese
we've
and
got
stuff
that
on it.
already. It's like a calzone, like a folded pizza. I think without making it too complicated, because you got to remember there's 150 different stores that all have to adopt the same recipes, and so it's not just a case of just thinking something and just doing it tomorrow. It's not a one shop or two shops. There's a lot of people to inform, a lot of people to train. We do seasonal products. We run competitions. I think you need to see what's trending and incorporate that into your business where possible.
And how do you stay ahead with the trends?
You just got to be on it. There's no secret. There's no secret method or trick. You just have to be on it. You have to be aware all the time.
How do you deal with special requests like, gluten free, vegan, them sort of things?
Yeah, you have to have options for everybody. So we have gluten-free bases, we have vegan cheese, we have a few different things, and they're popular because that kind of market is growing all the time. So yeah, you have to. If you don't do it, then the competition will.
A lot of people are health conscious nowadays.
Mm,
And obviously, like, one of the reasons that I won't eat pizza, or if I do eat pizza, I normally take a knife and just take all the topping off. And I love the toppings,
yeah.
but it's just like, it's always like, that's carbs, bro. It's carbs, like, and turns into starch. Like, how do you get around the health sort
I
of
mean,
side
we
of
do
things?
salads as well. I think the toppings are more probably healthy than the actual base, isn't it? Because that's like dough. But I mean, we do salads. We do. I think yeah, you want to eat it every day, but I mean, I have pizza at least twice a week. I'm alright. I think.
So where are you going? What are you going into next? Like obviously you've created this massive brand. It's happening. It's
Mm.
happened already. You've got all these outlets. You've got the distribution center. You're now in like getting all the ingredients in. You're obviously making a markup there to run that business, distributing. What's next? What are you focusing on?
In terms of business, just to maintain it and to grow internationally and to improve the stores that we have already to maximize their potential as much as possible. And in terms of personally, I mean, I'm not complacent, but I'm a bit slightly more relaxed than in the beginning. I'm not chasing as much. People might say he's not you're not as motivated, but I'm not. I've realized that there's more important things than money, and you need money to survive. But in terms of for me personally, I got a house. I got my mum a house. I like to travel. I like to try different foods, and comes a point that you realize that you're not going to be here forever, and it's not about, as we said, the watch that you wear or the car that you drive or the house that you live in. It's more about the people that you help and the people that you meet and the places that you visit. And for me, the food, because I'm a big food person. So for me, that's a big thing. So I think you need to find out what your passions are and enjoy as well as how much money you want to make.
Do you see other people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and like Richard Branson,
Mm.
and think to yourself, "Wow, I'm like self-made. I've got a big brand, turning over millions. I want to be one of these like pioneers of the world to make a change, leave a mark before I actually leave." Like, is there any sort of legacy in
To be
your
honest,
mind?
in the beginning, like when I was younger and when I started my journey, I did, and I looked up to those people massively, done a lot of research on them, and read their life story, and they were motivational, inspirational figures. But then, and obviously, I wanted what they had, billions. But now as you grow older and you kind of see the world and see all the bad side of the world as well as the good side, you visit all these places and also you see the poverty and how people are living, and it doesn't I don't know, I'm not as inspired or motivated as I used to be by these people when you know that they've got hundreds of billions. Not, I might have a couple million, but you're not talking about 1 billion or 2 billion, you're talking about hundreds of billions. And I see last week that they said Elon Musk is on track to become a trillionaire by in the next 3 years. And you think there's people that don't have food to eat. um they're living on the streets. It's not really living, they're just existing. And then you've got people that have got hundreds of billions in the bank that could change. And people say, oh yeah, but it's not one person can change this. Yeah, but there's not one or two of them, there's hundreds of them, and they've all got multiple billions. If they wanted to change things, unless there's someone behind the scenes stopping them, then they could change it. So they're not as I'm not as inspired. I'm inspired by what they've created and business wise what they've done. But in terms of them as people who have, amassed this wealth, if someone, for example, told you that he's got 100 billion pairs of socks in his house, you'd think he was, a weirdo. But if he says he's got 100 billion in the bank, 100 billion pounds in the bank, then people praise them. But then you think about the people that they can help, which obviously they choose not to help. Everyone's got different opinions in it, but that's my opinion.
What's the best piece of advice that you've been given?
As I said, just don't focus on the money. Obviously, we need money to survive, but focus on your passion and do what you enjoy, and then somehow the money will come. A revenue stream will come, whether you like, art and you like creating paintings, and then people will buy them. Or if you like meeting people and doing podcasts, then sponsorship deals will come. If you like fashion and you like creating clothing, people will buy it. If you like traveling and you can turn that into some sort of blogging, social media page, and people will invite you places. I think we need money to survive, but I don't think that should be the main focus. But at the same time, as with me, I didn't listen to that advice until I went out there and made some money myself and realized for myself. Sometimes I think people have to realize things for themselves, because no matter how much someone will tell you something, like when my mum used to tell me to stop smoking every day, and until I was ready and until I realized for myself, then you don't take no notice of it.
How are you able to pick up all your TMs? I literally messaged you and went, "Yo, bro, it'd be great to have you on the podcast." And you were like, "Let's do it next week." Like, how are you so responsive? Like, are you probably getting messages all the time from distributors,
I think
employees, and
I
other
think some
people?
days you have busier days than others, isn't it? So you just have to proportionate your time. You can't reply to everyone straight away. You can't jump when people call or answer all the time. But I think as long as you do things eventually, then it doesn't make as much difference if you're doing them straight away.
What made you want to say, yes, let's do this next week?
I just like meeting new people. I had a few hours free, so why not?
I really respect that a lot. Honestly, it says a lot about you. When I got that message back, I was like, did he really reply? Like,
You know
I've
what
had
it
to
is?
really like.
As I started the journey and I wanted to work with different people and collaborate with different people, and I'd message these people with like 500,000 followers, million followers, and I wouldn't get a response. And at the time I thought, oh, who's this guy? Can't even be bothered to respond. But now I realize there's not enough time in the day to respond to everybody straight away. Sometimes, I've met people in person and they've messaged me like 6 months ago and I never replied, and it was nothing personal. People are busy. So I think everyone needs to understand that. But yeah, as long as you find time eventually, it doesn't have to be straight away or this week or next week or next month. But as long as it's not purposely ignoring you, then unfortunately, you have to wait on it.
A lot of people have that little bit of a victim personality in terms of I'm from a council estate. It was never written for me. Everyone's against me. Government's against me. I've got to do it this way to make my P. What advice are you giving that person?
I think that kind of mentality and attitude is not going to help you, and that's it. It's not going to help you. So I think you should do something or have an attitude or choose to be a way that is going to help you, not a way that isn't going to help you. I find that there's two types of people. There's people that will be inspired and motivated and happy for you, and there's people that will be envious and jealous and hate on you. They're the two kinds of people, and I think you just have to um, not pay too much attention to either of them. The people that are happy and motivated and inspired by you. I mean, that's great. You're kind of helping them in a way, but it shouldn't make you feel. It shouldn't give you like a big head or gas you up too much. And the people that hate and are envious and are jealous, again, there's no point wasting your own time and energy asking yourself why they're like that and what have you done, or is it your. The best thing to do is just focus on yourself and help the people that you can help, and look after yourself and your family and your friends.
Amazing. What's been your biggest purchase?
Biggest probably my house. Probably my house. Yeah, that was. I lived with my mum until I was 30 because I didn't want to, move into like a stand. Like I liked it. I enjoyed being at home as well, and it did get a little bit because obviously a big family, so it did get a bit annoying at times. But I don't know. I didn't want to settle for just like an average house. I wanted to work as hard as possible, save up as much as possible, and buy something nice, and I did. Um, I went from living in I went from living with my mum and my brother and sisters in Mitcham to moving to a private estate in Surrey, and I was happy. It was a bit of an anticlimax because although it's a beautiful house, after a while you realise that it's just a house. And funny enough, I moved out 2 months ago. I'm renting it to an American family because me on my own living in a 5-bedroom house is a bit silly. So I'm renting it to an American family, and I'm moving into a 2-bedroom flat. But it's an investment, whichever way you look at it. So that's good. And then after the house, probably cars. I got a few cars, but I lost a lot of money on them. And again, you realize after driving it for a few months, you realize it's just a car, and it one day it's going to end up in the scrapyard anyway. So it's not. They're nice things to have if you like them, but don't go out of your way to forget about everything else just to get a materialistic item. More important is again, as I said, for me, the places that you visit, the people that you meet, and the knowledge that you share.
What's the best car you've had?
So now I've got a Lamborghini, a Urus. That's nice. A Rolls Royce, which is kind of like a classic one.
Which one?
A Wraith,
Okay.
and I had a Tesla, which to be honest was the best car out of all of them. It was comfortable. It's like a go-kart, but someone crashed into me, so that's gone. And I've got a Mercedes S-Class, so I get driven in that, so that's quite comfortable as well.
Nice. I've got a few fire round questions for you. What's your favorite pizza topping?
We don't actually we don't sell it because we stopped it a while ago because it was quite expensive. But ricotta cheese, I like that on a pizza.
Hey, a pizza trend that you'd never try.
Pizza trend that I never try. In South Africa, they put like ham and bananas or turkey and bananas on a pizza, so don't think I'd like that.
One word that describes your leadership style.
Erratic.
What do you mean by that?
Just a bit like creative or erratic. I mean, not what's the word, within the lines. Kind of, you have to kind of be a bit not all over the place. I'm thinking of the right word, but not just always, by the book. The opposite of by the book.
Like in terms of like mirroring people a little bit and trying
Just
to
in
relate
terms
to
of
them.
doing things differently. It could be anything, but just not always sticking to the what's the word?
The normal.
Yeah,
the
not always sticking to
same
the
box standard.
yeah.
And if you could have dinner with any entrepreneur in the world, who would it be?
A good question. Probably, I don't even know if he's still alive, but probably if I had to choose someone quickly, maybe like the founder of Domino's, that could be an interesting conversation. Yeah, I think you should learn from people. I think you shouldn't see, obviously there is competition, but you shouldn't see it in like a negative way. I think you should always, yeah, there's a competition, and yeah, it's good to be competitive. That's, I think, what business is all about. But I think at the same time, you shouldn't be hostile to anyone. You should learn from everyone. Everyone's got good and bad traits, and I think you should learn from both good and bad. Learn from other people's mistakes and also learn what they did right.
And I have to ask this question because I am from an Indian background. Like you're doing something in India as well, like
Yeah,
in terms of your franchise.
yeah.
Sort of how are things different over there? Because it is quite a big
Taste. I mean,
emerging.
everything from the pricing obviously is going to be a lot different, and also like the taste. The menu has to be different. I think the tomato sauce is going to have. It's going to be kind of spicy as standard. Um, there's not going to be any beef because obviously it's not a popular product. Um, there is a few changes. Yeah, every country has it's far away. It's hot as well, so you have to keep. You have to look at the storage of even like the normal products, not just like the refrigerated products. So yeah, all fun and games.
And finally, if there's one piece of advice that you're giving somebody who's watching this podcast today, what is that one piece of advice you're giving?
Don't overthink it too much. Just start now and learn on the way. You're never gonna be 100% ready or know 100% of things. You're always gonna come up against things. So I used to spend a lot of time thinking about like brand logos and names, and these things are good, but just get down to the actual business and get going. But also at least think about who your target audience is going to be. Don't do something random because you think you can make money out of it unless you actually know who you're going to, who your customers are, how you're going to get to your customers. Because people come to me all the time with some, not crazy, but just ideas that you can tell it's because they think that you can make money out of it, and not because then you ask them like, how are you going to get these customers? Like, who do you know in your circle where you can actually get into the market where people are actually going to buy whatever you're selling, whether it's chains or hair products or clothing, who do you know? Like, just imagine that the business already started last week. So how you selling this product before you order a whole garage load of hairspray or whatever? How are you going to sell it? Who are you going to sell it to? I think people, they shouldn't overthink it for too long, but they should at least think a little bit of, from day one, what are you going to do?
Amazing. It's great having you on the podcast, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to do a part 2 at some stage.
Yeah, why not?
But yeah, if you let the audience at home know how the best to follow yourself.
Just through my website. It's just my name, marioalepo.com.
Brilliant. And there you go, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. It's all about franchisees, how to take a single shop, grow it to over 160 shops, turn over a lot of money, and creating a distribution center to where you're now working internationally. So if you have a question, don't be afraid to drop us a comment. I'll make sure that we'll get you an answer back. But until the next one,